Another story I've been tracking, it's somewhat amusing. There is a, we'll call it center-left think tank called Third Way. It's center-left. That's well, it's generous, but we'll call it center-left. They've spent a bunch of money on a study to try to help Democrats not sound like lunatics. The purpose of the memo that they are circulating to Democrats is to tell them, here's how you can talk and sound like a normal person. And they have advised the Democrats to stop saying certain things. Here are the terms that the center-left Third Way says Democrats should no longer say. Privilege. Violence, as in environmental violence. Dialoguing. Triggering. Othering. Microaggression. Holding space. Body shaming. Radical transparency. The unhoused. Instead of saying homeless, a lot of Democrats use the term the unhoused. That's a big no-no. Food insecurity. Housing insecurity. Person who immigrated. Some of the euphemisms that liberals use for illegal aliens are incredible. Person who immigrated. Don't say that. Just say what it is. Birthing person. This may be the most egregious. Remember when they started referring to mothers as birthing persons? Oh, yes. Birthing persons. This is how captured by the trans ideology the Democratic Party and the progressive left is. They won't even say mother anymore. They say birthing person. This think tank says, don't do that. That makes you sound crazy, so stop doing that. Dead naming. There's another one from the trans world. Heteronormative. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know what that means. Heteronormative. Patriarchy. Don't say that. LGBTQIA+. Probably not helping you sound normal. BIPOC. That's an acronym. Not certain I can tell you what the words are, but BIPOC. That's an acronym. Allyship. Incarcerated people. So instead of saying criminals, as in you committed a crime and got put in jail, Democrats will call you an incarcerated person. They won't call you a criminal. They'll call you an incarcerated person, as though maybe you're not a criminal. You probably are. 30. Involuntary confinement. Again, if you've been in prison for committing a crime, they say, well, he's just under involuntary confinement. Folks, Democrats have to hire consultants to tell them what not to say to sound like normal human beings. That is the current state of the Democratic Party and the progressive left in the United States of America. It's why they have a 33% approval rating.
Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. August 23rd, 2025. Let's get into it. Wasn't that a great video up front? Although I don't think you should be giving Democrats that advice, because how are you going to be able to identify a Democrat unless they're using that language? Of course, you know, on my channel, we always got to make fun of the Democrats. Remember, if you got a Democrat neighbor, be sure and check to see if there's any kids coming out of that house. We've only found a couple thousand so far that the Democrats put into brothels and sex slavery. So we're still looking for hundreds of thousands. So be sure and keep an eye on them. All right, let's get into Ukraine. And this is the video I have on Ukraine.
Can there be a peace between us?
That's correct. There can be and there will be no peace. I don't know if you watch the news. Zelensky went after talking to Trump. I really thought, you know, maybe he would go back and they might do a little something like change the Constitution. Nope. Zelensky just came out and said there will be no territory given to Russia. They're going to have to take it, which they are. And the Russian language is still banned in Ukraine. So remember Putin's terms. We're going to get into a video from Lavrov in a minute. But actually, let's just get that out of the way. I got it right here. So let's, well, anyway, the Russian conditions, I'll just summarize them for you. No NATO in Ukraine, neutrality, no peacekeepers. Now, when I say no peacekeepers, I want to quantify that. The Russians are amiable to a UN force in Ukraine to give them security. Okay, they can't be military, dressed in military uniforms representing NATO countries or anything like that. But you could have a combined force of Chinese, I imagine they would probably permit some of the, like Turkey, for example, Turkish peacekeepers there. That Russia hasn't said they won't let Ukraine, have a security agreement. Just saying. But, no NATO. And then, of course, and then Trump comes out, because I thought he understood the Russian terms, and says, oh, maybe we can provide a no-fly zone. I think the Russians aren't going to permit that. I mean, I don't know, Trump's all over the damn place. He comes out and you think that he's got everything under control. I thought he put Zelensky in his place, and then Zelensky goes back and says, no peace. Before we get into Lavrov, let's summarize Gaza, or Palestinians. The extermination of the Palestinians is proceeding very well. The Christian Zionists and the Israeli IDF are doing a good job. Doing a really good job. From
העובדה שיש בה 50,000 עובדים בעזה היא הכרחית ונדרשת לדורות הבאים. אוקיי, שחטתם. אוקיי, השפלתם. אוקיי, שחטתם, רצחתם, הכל. המחיר, אני אמרתי שלנו, על כל מה שקרה בשבוע, על כל אחד בשבוע, באוקטובר צריך לעמוד 50 פלסטינים. זה לא משנה עכשיו ילדים. אני לא מדבר על זה מתוך נקמה, אני מדבר על זה מתוך מסר לדורות הבאים. אין לעשות, צריכים מדי פעם נכבה כדי להרגיש כדי לכם. אין ברירה בשכונה המופרעת הזאת.
The last news was that Israel might call up another 60,000, although I can't imagine they're going to be able to do that, because a lot of people, the Orthodox Church, I think it's the Orthodox in Israel, it's against their religion to serve in the IDF. And from what I understand, a lot of Israelis, because they are reservists, they're only required to serve like 2 or 3 terms. And a lot of them have already exhausted that. So where are these 60,000 soldiers going to come from? I don't know. But if he gets them, that'll mean the last of the Palestinians in Gaza will be eliminated. So that'll make Mike Huckabee and Sean Hannity and all the Christian Zionists really, really happy.
What is it you want us to do?
The one thing that does piss me off, though, is, all these Christian Zionists, especially, Huckabee and, and of course the half of the Congress went over to Israel, Mike Johnson and all of them. It pisses me off that they won't participate in the killing. Dagnabbit, if you're going to go over there and support Israel, at least go into Gaza and do some target shooting on some kids and some women. Put your money or put your body where, your mouth is. Dagnabbit. In fact, the British doctors reported that the Israeli, or the IDF snipers, they were seeing a pattern, is that the grouping of the shots on the children were usually in like one body part, depending on which day it was. So you can tell that the snipers are getting good practice. So maybe one day they just shoot the kid in the arm or the shoulder, or the next day they'll shoot him, in the stomach or in the leg, because if you're gonna do target practice on children and women, you might as well group your shots and get to the best practice that you can. I'm just sorry that Huckabee and all these congressmen aren't out there with the IDF getting some target practice in on the Palestinians. I don't know. You tell me. Don't you think if they're going to support all this, that they need to be in there? And of course, I always said cut them open and dip your hands down in the guts. You know, that's what they really got to do. All right, so let's get to Lavrov here. This was him shaming. I don't know, man. Some of these mainstream or legacy reporters, they just get under my skin, man. It's like his fingernails going down a chalkboard. And but he schooled her. And I'll just read it to you, and then we'll watch the video. How can we meet with a person who is pretending to be a leader? Lavrov on Zelensky's demands to hold a meeting with Putin. President Putin clearly stated that he's ready to meet on the condition that this meeting has a real agenda, a presidential agenda. So that's a big if. The meeting is not scheduled. Mr. Minister, you say there is no meeting now. Of course, that's the reporter. Kristen, yeah, that's her name. God, I hate that woman. I shouldn't say hate. Hate's a strong term. I just can't stand listening to her. She's, man, she just gets under my skin. Sorry that you are not listening. There is no meeting, and I do not dispute that. But you seem to understand what I'm saying, or not understand what I'm saying. Putin is ready to meet with Zelensky only when the agenda for the summit is ready. And there is no such agenda yet at all. After the meeting at Anchorage, President Trump proposed several points with which we agree, and some we agreed to show flexibility. When President Trump raised these issues at the meeting in Washington, in the presence of Zelensky, and I can't see the word, believes must be accepted, including no NATO membership, discussion of territorial issues. Zelensky said no to everything. He even refused, as I've already said, to repeal the law banning the Russian language. How can we meet with a person who is pretending to be a leader? And let's watch that video on Lavrov right now.
President Putin said clearly that he is ready to meet, provided this meeting is really going to have an agenda, presidential agenda.
So that's a big if. There's no meeting planned, Mr. Foreign Minister. That's a big if. You're saying there's no meeting planned right now.
Kristen, I am awfully sorry, you're not listening. There is no meeting planned, and I am not challenging this. But you cannot, I think, understand what I am saying. Putin is ready to meet with Zelensky when the agenda would be ready for a summit. And this agenda is not ready at all. President Trump suggested, after Anchorage, several points which we share. And on some of them, we agreed to show some flexibility.
Okay.
When President Trump brought those issues to the meeting in Washington, with Zelensky present together with his European sponsors, he clearly indicated, it was very clear to everybody that there are several principles which Washington believes must be accepted, including no NATO membership, including the discussion of territorial issues. And Zelensky said no to everything. He even said no to, as I said, to canceling legislation prohibiting the Russian language. How can we meet with a person who is pretending to be a leader?
All right. This is a story that's not getting much coverage. We got, the National Guard is in Washington, D.C., and Trump is also saying he wants to send them to Chicago. And, amazingly, the Democrats are fighting him on it. And crime, from what I understand, has gone way down in Washington, D.C. A lot of people are feeling safe. Now, I get conflicting reports. Some people say that the people of Washington, D.C. are thankful, and they're happy that the crime's way down. And other people are saying that their Trump derangement syndrome, their hatred of Trump, they would rather not Trump get credit for bringing the crime down in Washington, D.C., and, they still are going to vote Democrat on everything. But anyway, this isn't the other story. It's about Venezuela. And so this was Sprinter Observe. Trump has directed the U.S. military to prepare for bombing campaign against targets. Oh, this is inside Mexico. I'm sorry. Trump might be taking on the cartels. Different story. Got the next story will be on Venezuela. And I'm all for that. Because, you know, the Mexican government is just part of the cartels. You know, that whole country is just corrupt. And the only way to really stop the fentanyl, stop the human trafficking, of course, Democrats are all for human trafficking, you know, we know that. But I mean, we got to stop the human trafficking, and that is take on the cartels. And that is not going to be an easy fight. The cartels have drones, and they have javelins. They have a lot of weapons that the Ukrainians have sold them. So they're pretty damn well armed. You know, but the thing is, I don't know how many men they would have. And they probably, other than the drones, they don't really have an air force. So we'll see. Well, let's hope then. But let's get to Venezuela, and I got mixed feelings on this. So Alex Jones, I'll say it. I am for removing the Venezuelan dictatorship. Alex Jones lays out why he supports President Trump's move to take down Maduro. I don't like any of these wars. Got a damn bug biting on me. I don't like any of these wars, and but I do like, and I don't like regime change. But they are manipulating our elections and flooding us with fentanyl. I'm not one to ever push offensive stuff, but they started it, so it's really defense. Whether you're for it or not, it's about to happen. Now, if you didn't know, what Venezuela is accused of, okay, is that they rigged, supposedly now, they've rigged their elections so that Maduro gets about 51% of the vote every single time. Just like you see the elections that are rigged here in the United States. Now, what they did, supposedly, is they sold a lot of that technology to the Democrats. And so the Democrats used that technology with the mail-in ballots and the voting machines to rig our elections, the same way that Venezuela rigs their elections. So that's where the story is going. And of course, Trump has accused Venezuela of releasing all of their cartel gang members into the United States. Don't know if it's true or not. And then also what was the other thing? Of course, you heard the fentanyl, that they're basically poisoning Americans. If that's all true, we do need to take out Maduro and give Venezuela free elections. I'm not for regime change like Alex. But let's watch that Alex Jones video right now.
3 U.S. warships that are being sent to Venezuela, and there's 4,000 Marines on board. Are you looking at possibility of boots on the ground there?
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. In Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country. And with that, I will leave you all, and we will see you later, if not tomorrow. And I look forward to taking more of your questions. Thank you.
All right. So I always got to give both sides of the argument. So this is Olga Bozva. Okay, and so she makes an argument to the other side of the coin. Unsurprisingly, quite a lot of Americans came into the comments defending Trump's decision to start another war, claiming that the whole country is one huge drug cartel and Maduro is the drug cartel's boss, as well as the notion that he purposely sends immigrant gangs into the United States. Let's start with the first issue. Venezuela isn't even in the top 5 of illegal drug exporters. Where was I? I'm sorry, I lost my place. Into the United States. But Mexico, which is right across the border, is on top by far, and that's true. Second issue, once again, Venezuela isn't even in the top 10 countries that cause your immigration crisis. In fact, it's number 17 in total immigrants arriving in the United States. Another bug on me. It is a well-known fact that there are books written about it, that the whole war on drugs is a 3-letter agency-led operation with full participation from the above-mentioned agencies to worsen the drug problem in the United States. Just look at the statistics of increased drug usage in the United States since this so-called war has been declared, and it's got a picture of the number of immigrants that have come in from all the various nations. So a lot of what she's saying there is true. You know, I mean, the Democrats, the mafia, the Democrat mafia, are in cahoots with the Mexican drug cartels to bring drugs into the United States. They profit from human trafficking, and they profit from child trafficking. So, you know, what she's saying there is that Venezuela, compared to the Democrats in Mexico, is way down on the list. What can you say? We're getting a lot of posts from Kash Patel. Haven't seen much from Dan Bongino, but this is a little statistic for you. Arrests of violent criminals have doubled under President Trump. That's 20,099 this year versus 11,170 last year under Biden. Criminals don't get a pass anymore. And then, of course, we got a picture of the $22,000 number, you know, in a graph. I always like pictures. So I hopefully I'll find this video. But this was a good, because, you know, one of the things that the media does, and I've tried to point it out in a lot of my videos, is how they'll slant things. You know, they put the spin on something that even when something is good, they make it sound bad, okay? Or if it's a Democrat initiative, it's something that's bad that they make sound good. You know, kind of like the Inflation Reduction Act or something. You know, they'll put a name on it and make it sound like it's going to be good when it's actually projection. Confession through projection is just the opposite of what you expect. But despite what everyone in the media is saying, real Donald Trump was not making an excuse for the horrors of slavery. Now, before we watch the video, if I can find it, he was talking about the fact that the Smithsonian, I believe this is the video, was, you know, putting too much emphasis on slavery, and that, you know, he would like to see some other things. By the way, there's a lot of stories about the tunnels underneath the Smithsonian, and they've got some really wild stuff like down there, like giant parts, you know, like a head that's the size of a human body or something like that, or a skull, you know. So there's other things that are supposed to be under the Smithsonian that nobody has ever seen. And also under Washington, D.C. now, I'm getting these wild stories about, it's a whole tunnel network that goes all over Washington, D.C. You know, I guess back in the day, they were using them in the 1800s with trolleys, or even the early 1900s maybe, underground trolleys and stuff. And so, and they were talking about how the satanic forces, or the Democrats, are using those tunnels all around Washington, D.C. So it'll be interesting to see if that story is true. I can believe it, you know. I mean, I know that, you know, underneath the White House, there's all kinds of underground bunkers and stuff there. Yeah, we know that from the movies. Let's watch the Glenn Beck video now.
It's one thing to misunderstand or whatever, but it's an entirely other thing to intentionally take things out of context, intentionally leave things off the table, intentionally paint a picture that you know is not true. The Smithsonian story that came out yesterday, this is prime example of that.
Yes, this one really annoys me. And this is a certain thing that mainstream media does a lot, particularly with Donald Trump, in that it's a certain form of resistance journalism, if you will, where they don't come out and say Donald Trump believes slavery is good. That's not the headline. The headline today was, this is the New York Times, Trump says Smithsonian focuses too much on, quote, how bad slavery was, end quote. Now, that headline is very specifically crafted to present a couple of thoughts in your head, right? You're supposed to think, wait a minute, Trump thinks the Smithsonian is focusing too much on how bad slavery is. Well, what he must mean is he thinks it's good, or there were good aspects of it that they're not focusing on.
Or it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad as everything.
Right. Like he's making some excuse for the horrors of slavery. And of course, if he did do that, it would be a story. Right? Like it would be a story if Donald Trump came out and said, you know what? Slavery actually wasn't that bad. It was pretty good. Overall, that's a positive. That's a real story. Yeah. Of course, he didn't say anything like that. And we know that, you know, if you have a couple of brain cells, you know this for multiple reasons. Number one, you might note that politicians don't say things like that. Nobody says things like that.
But he says everything. He just says it.
Oh, that's right. He's the worst guy in the world. And of course, that's the person this headline is designed to lead that horse to water. That resistance warrior who already believes everything terrible about Donald Trump. This is another thing for them to make them hate him more, because they're the only people who could possibly believe the spin you're getting from the Times. They're the ones that are going to drink after they're led to that water, right? Those people are the targets. We know that politicians, even if politicians believed something like that, which of course most people don't, almost no one does, but even if a politician did believe that, they don't just blurt it out. That's not the type of thing people do. So you're supposed to think in the parentheses of your mind, you're supposed to say, oh, well, he just let that one slip out. He does believe it. He normally wouldn't say it, but he just lets it slip out. Another reason you should obviously know this spin is wrong. Donald Trump has said slavery is bad over and over and over and over and over again, like all other human beings in 2025, right? He said it over and over again. Now, in parentheses, you're supposed to think all those times were false. So he was lying all the other times, but this one time he let the truth slip out, which is that he thinks slavery actually isn't all that bad. Now, both of those things are insane to believe, but of course, it's not the main thing that should convince you. It's the context of how he was talking about this. He wasn't saying that slavery wasn't bad. What he was saying quite clearly was the Smithsonian, an American institution, was focusing too much on the negatives about our history rather than the positives of our history, and that we should instead have more focus on the positives. We know this because he actually said it. He said, quote, his complaint was nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. In other words, this American institution should talk a little bit more positively about America, not erase everything negative about America.
All right. So that's kind of gives you an interesting slant. Another crazy story. I like this one. This was from RT. Nuclear shrimp invade the United States. FDA halts BMS Foods after discovering radioactive isotopes. The cancer-causing seafood was originally bound for several cities, including Los Angeles. And we got a picture of the shrimp there. And then this is Guthrie Eagleman, and he adds to the story. Says it's time to... Oh, this is a different story, sorry. So Guthrie Eagleman says it's time to take off the partisan gloves and work united to uncover the complete truth about Epstein. I want to protect the innocent, but I want to hang the guilty. I think we all agree the children deserve justice, and we got a video on that. Let's watch that now.
And the oversight committees. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start on a question that pertains to your role on the Oversight Committee, and that is the Epstein files. The chair of that committee, James Comer, says that you will get some of the Justice Department documents from the Epstein investigation starting on Friday. First, will you as a committee member have the ability to see them for yourself?
I hope so. I've requested that very much. I think it's important that all the members see that on both sides of the aisle. I think we need to take the partisan gloves off and just get to the bottom of this whole terrible episode.
And how important is it to you that those documents then become public?
Very important, Dana, and thank you for asking me that question. I think transparency is what we've got to have. I think it's your job in the media and my job as a congressman, because nobody trusts Washington, D.C., and for good reason. Nobody thinks Lee Harvey Oswald shot John F. Kennedy from the front and the back, and they found the bullet in the Parkland Hospital basically unscathed. Yet that's what we've been told for years. And so, we have a history of lying to the public, and it just continues through this thing. We've got to get to the bottom of this. But my major concern, of course, is those 1,000 or so who were young girls at the time who were raped, and protecting their identities without them getting into the media spotlight, and also protecting the innocent people that may be mentioned casually in these files that flew on a plane, didn't go to the island or what have you, that could be brought into this. So those are the two areas. I want to protect the innocent, but I want to hang the guilty, and that is not political conjecture. That is the real deal.
Yeah. I have to tell you, JFK conspiracy theories, that was not on my bingo card for this interview.
Yeah, so now Maxwell has come out and said that Trump, well, there is no list, number one. And she said Trump never got a massage, or she never saw Trump engage in any activity that was unsavory. Same with Bill Clinton. Now, that's hard to believe, but that's what she said about Bill Clinton. So, I'm not sure we can believe anything she says, but, whatever. The story, the thing I don't like is, like I told you, Pam Bondi's a deep state actor. She has yet to prosecute anybody. So, I mean, it's great that Patel and oh, by the way, there's a new attorney. I forget, was it the attorney from South Carolina? Anyway, he's been put next to Dan Bongino. And that's going to be a really good, because the guy's an attorney general, and he definitely knows the law. And if you want to think about it, Bongino knows how to arrest people, but you got to have somebody who knows how to arrest them in a fashion that they can actually face a trial and be convicted. So that's why you need that legal help. So he's he's kind of Dan Bongino's, what are they called? The deputy director to the FBI, or the second in command. So they got two second in command, and of course Kash Patel's on top. So that's going to be a good addition. I kind of got off on a tangent there. But anyway, so I just don't think Pam Bondi is going to prosecute anybody. I think she's a deep state actor. And I don't know why Trump is not calling her out on it. But we'll see. Oh, and hey, I guess we did get something. The FBI raided Bolton. That freaking lunatic with the mustache raided his house at evidently 6 a.m., just like they did to Roger Stone back when the Democrats were in command. Now, a lot of people say it's Trump being vindictive, but you got to remember, they can't raid somebody's house until a judge approves it. So they had to have some sort of evidence that they presented to a judge that said, we need to go in there and raid his house just to look for something incriminating for whatever crime it was that he committed. So, the FBI just doesn't, Trump just can't send the FBI into somebody's house. I mean, if he could, I imagine Hillary Clinton's house would be raided right now, and Obama. But no, they have to have a probable cause to go in there. So, that was an interesting story. All right, let's keep going. This is Marcus Lemus. Official statement regarding Bed Bath & Beyond. We will not open retail stores in California. This isn't about politics, it's about reality. California's system makes it nearly impossible for business to succeed. And I won't put our company, our employees, and our customers in that position. And we got a picture of the statement. Now, it's not just Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay, you got Target, from what I understand. They might be pulling out of California. Of course, the guy, and then of course you got Newsom, who thinks he's going to run for president. I mean, when he's completely destroyed California, I don't know. I mean, I guess the Democrats will vote for him. They're like the Borg, the hive mind. But I can't imagine any independent voting for Gavin Newsom. I could be wrong in that. So you got Target and Bed Bath & Beyond pulling out. And then also like CVS. A lot of people were talking about, you go in, let's say you want to buy a toothbrush. Well, it's usually behind blocked glass. Because can you imagine, hey, I need somebody over here to unlock this toothbrush so that I can get it out, and buy it. That's how bad it is in California with all the shoplifting. But they like it that way. Then this is a new story. Powerful. Stephen Miller just exposed how evil Democrats are in these sanctuary cities, and he's spot on. ICE will then send what's called a detainer request or a hold request, and will say, don't release this person. Hand them over to ICE, and we'll remove this child predator from our community. Instead, these sanctuary mayors will order the police department to ignore the federal request to set them free out of the jail, out of the prison, and they will go back into the community, and they will reoffend and re-rape and kill and murder. And I'm adding to it. They will hurt another little girl. They will hurt another little boy. And then ICE has to spend weeks trying to secure and scour the community to find this public safety threat. We got a video on that. Let's watch that now.
This thing through to the end. Well, to me, it's aiding and abetting. If I went down to the border and if I were to pick people up that were illegally in the country and transport them around the country and maybe give them a place to stay and protect them and let them know when ICE was going to raid, what would happen to me? Wouldn't I be charged with aiding and abetting criminal activity?
You'd be facing felony charges. Numerous felony charges. Charges for trafficking, charges for smuggling, charges for harboring, charges for concealing, charges for illegal interstate commerce, charge after charge after charge. Let me just break down for your audience, Sean, how severe the crime committed by these sanctuary cities is. So you'll have a situation where local police in Boston will arrest an illegal alien who's a child predator. And ICE will then send what's called a detainer request or a hold request, and we'll say, don't release this person, hand them over to ICE, and we'll remove this child predator from our community. Instead, these sanctuary mayors will order the police department to ignore the federal request to set them free out of the jail, out of the prison, and they will go back into the community. And then they will reoffend. They will hurt another little girl. They will hurt another little boy. And then ICE has to spend weeks scouring the community to find this public safety threat. What they're doing, Sean, is evil, and President Trump will see that they are held to account for their crimes.
All right, Stephen Miller, it is imperative we get to the bottom of this, hold people accountable. And
all right, and I just wanted to add a comment to that. Is that the Boston mayor has laid down the gauntlet to Homan. And I'm not sure, Homan said he's going to arrest some of these Democrats that are blocking the ICE ability to arrest the illegal aliens. So we'll see. I wonder if the mayor of Boston is about to go to jail. All right, I got to cut the camera off here because the sun has gotten behind me. And we'll get back to making the video when the lighting is correct. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes, and boy, we could really continue on with this video for a long time. But we'll just save that for a future video. I will finish up with one last story, or two, actually. Tulsi Gabbard, she revoked the security clearances of 37 people involved in the Russia collusion hoax. Their access to classified systems, facilities, materials, and information is to be terminated forthwith. Any contracts or employment with the U.S. government by these 37 individuals is hereby terminated. Tulsi Gabbard said these include staffers, former DNI James Clapper, who had his clearance revoked in the beginning days of the administration. I tell you what, we have one shining example, well, two really, in the Trump administration. One is Tulsi Gabbard. Daggone it if she isn't doing some great things. I tell you what, she runs for president. She's got my vote. But, I think the pick is going to be J.D. Vance. But anyway, maybe if he would make her vice president, that ticket would be awesome, wouldn't it? Vance and Tulsi. The other shining example is, of course, RFK Jr. He's doing a great job with making America healthy again. He had a lot of deep state actors in there that were working against him. And between cleaning house and doing all of that, that's a lot of work. The other story that just came out was Tulsi Gabbard. I can't remember, it's a huge number. She's laying off like 40% of the DNI staff. I gotta tell you what, I'm wondering what property values are in Washington, D.C. at the moment. What do you think? If you know anybody that lives around the D.C. area, with all the layoffs that I'm hearing from, the FDA and CDC, and now the DNI and the FBI. There seems to me a lot of houses are going up for sale in Washington, D.C. Not only that, think about all the FBI agents that Kash Patel moved out of Washington, D.C. to field offices all around the country. So all of those houses might be for sale. Who knows? But somebody let me know. Leave a comment. What are the property values in Washington, D.C.? All right, that's it for today's video. Let's get a look at the sun off in the distance there. Kind of pretty with the moss hanging off of the tree, isn't it? That's a cool shot. Peace out. Stay free. And if I think of something else, like I said, we got enough stuff here for a whole nother video. But I'm just going to do the one, and we'll save the notes that I got for a future video. The last thing, gotta promote the channels. Be sure to click that like button and subscribe. You know, my channels are the Florida Man News Network on YouTube. That's Florida MNN, Florida MNN. YouTube's got me buried, so it's tough to find. And then, of course, you got the Burn channel on Rumble. The Burn, all one word, channel on Rumble. Be sure to check me out. And, of course, I'm ThatCyberSecUguy on X. Stay free. Well, as we continue to hike along, I did forget to talk about one last thing, and that's the new video studio. And I know that in all the videos I keep talking about it, and you're saying, what the hell? What is it taking so damn long? Well, I mean, just a quick story for you. You know, one of the things I don't like about Linux, or at least Mint, is when it installs, I tried to configure it to, you know, mount all the disks automatically, because I had in the server, I've got 4 disks in there. And there was no easy way. Even when I tried to set up the mount points, it would blow up during the install. So I had to go with the default, with the thought that I was going to mount those disks after the fact. And anyway, it took me 2 or 3 hours last night. I finally got the disks mounted. And the tool I used, of course, was Gparted. The Linux comes with the disks utility. And then, of course, I had manually edited the fstab file. So, you know, just little stuff like that, you know, it takes a long time. And you say, well, what about the actual server, which is going to be the video studio? Why haven't I finished building that and loading everything on it? Well, believe me, I'm documenting everything as I go along for another book. I'm writing another book on, well, this would be on Linux. You know, installing Linux on old machines. I don't know what I'll title the book. And so all these steps will be applied ultimately in the end to the battleship, the main computer, which would be, you know, my video making studio computer. But, you know, it's best to practice on old equipment first. And so that's why everything is taking so long. Alrighty, just someday, you know, if I don't get the book, and that's another thing, I wanted to put some stuff up on the website for you. But when I went to reset the website, it won't let me do it. So I got to contact the doggone website provider, which is Cloud Access up in Michigan, again, and have them reset the website so that I can start working on it. So maybe I'll start getting you some information. It'll be ThatCyberSecurityGuy.com will be the website someday. But don't go there now. All I've got is the domain, no website. All right, I thought of a couple other stories while we're watching the sunset here. The figure that was quoted that Trump spent on all of the legal matters that the Democrats tied him up in was $600 million. I don't know if that's the truth or not. That's what somebody said or was quoted on X. Can you imagine? So then, you know, that's the reason nobody but a billionaire could run for president, or somebody supported by the deep state. So, I mean, that's a hell of a figure. The other question that nobody's asked for a while, what happened to the audit of Fort Knox? You tell me. I mean, I thought that we were going to go in there and audit Fort Knox, and that was big on the agenda. And then all of a sudden, nobody talked about it. Nobody in the independent media. No, certainly the legacy media is not going to talk about it. No, I've heard nobody in the Trump administration. The last question that I have is, okay, they're moving out all the homeless from Washington, D.C. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. Where are they putting them? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're taking them out of Washington, D.C., where are you putting them? Nobody's asked that question, or has it given me an answer to that question. Just something that I said. The other story that I thought was entertaining as hell was when Trump was talking to the press, or he's talking to the troops in Washington, D.C., telling them what a good job they're doing cleaning up the city. And then he was talking, we're not going to stop there. We're going to redo the parks. He says, and we're going to redo the grass because nobody on earth knows more about grass than I do. All of my golf courses, I have to know a lot about grass. He might as well said, there was no grass on planet Earth until Trump, declared, let there be grass on planet Earth. I just love how over the top he always is. I just thought that was a cute story. But that is very important. Those parks will turn Washington, D.C. into a much more vibrant and wonderful community or a good place to live because, it's so important for me to get out here and do these hikes in the woods, just to get my head on straight. And I can't imagine if we didn't have any parks that I could go to that, where there weren't homeless and needles laying on the ground or the threat of being accosted or mugged, or if you're a female, raped. Hell, if you're a guy, you could be raped. I mean, you never know these days. All right, that's it. All right, so one more story that I forgot about was, one of the things I'm wondering is what are they going to do with Gaza once they've exterminated all the Palestinians? I know Trump kind of probably wants to build a golf course there, but the figure that I heard, it's going to cost them billions upon billions of dollars to remove all the rubble that is in there. And that's another question that I've had that I keep asking is why doesn't Israel keep a lot of the infrastructure? Because obviously they're going to rebuild it in some fashion. Maybe they just don't like what was there. Why destroy everything? Yeah, it's kind of like buying a house or taking over somebody's house and then plowing it to the ground. Just so you could build another house. I don't know. Why on earth are they destroying every single building in Gaza, razing the whole place to the ground? The other thing is I wonder which gas company is going to get the contract for those gas fields off the coast of Gaza. What do you think? Leave a comment. You think it's going to be Exxon Mobil or BP, for example? Because they're going to be able to, once the Palestinians are gone, they're going to be able to make some huge amounts of money off of those gas fields, from what I understand, once they drill down into them. So anyway, just some thoughts. And then, they're going to build the condos all along the shore there. From what I understand, that's perfect beach, So the problem's going to be is, when they do go to rebuild, wonder how many mass graves they're going to dig up to be able to rebuild all of Gaza. That seems to me that could be a problem. My God, you're going to build your building right over top of a bunch of Palestinian dead women and children? I don't know. Maybe they will. Just questions that I have to ask. But that figure about, clearing all the rubble, billions upon billions of dollars. And why blow it all up? It doesn't make sense to me.